Welcome to MP3's live recording of our Intermediate and Advanced Web Analytics Seminar.
Next, we're going to look at asynchronous code. This is the last version of the Google Analytics JavaScript for tracking. It is given to you when you create your account. And you see it right there. This is not working. You see it right here. When you install it on a page, all you need to do is add it at the bottom of the head, okay, of the head section. So if you're using a content management system, a CMS, WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, or others, there's plenty of them out there. It's as simple as plugging it into the right place. You're done. I use WordPress. I add a plugin. It's as simple as adding that number, which usually has numbers, into the code. Bingo, I'm done. All set, site is set up. If you're coding this page yourself, you know what the head section is, put it at the bottom, just before the closing tag. Okay, copy paste every single page. There are three sections to the code. The GA master file, which is loaded from the Google servers. The unique ID, which is the UA, the unique account ID, and the track page view function that's called up every time the page comes on. And that's what they are. The 1 is loaded here, 2 is that number, and 3 is when we load this guy. When we do modifications to the code, we're either going to do modifications to the code before we load the track view. So for example, if we're telling Google to ignore cookies because we're doing a cross-domain tracking, we're going to put that code before we initialize the page tracker. And if we're doing other things, like for example, if we want to set a timer to a bounce rate, by default there is no timer. So someone hitting a page, consuming the whole content and leaving without clicking on anything else is considered a bounce automatically by Google. However, because by then you have initialized the track page view already, you're going to insert a timer, which is what I do. I put a 10-second timer on it, so that every time, if someone stays longer than 10 seconds, it's no longer considered a bounce. That would go in this section here. This is very cool. It's only 18K. It is cached, so it loads only once on your site. And if you went to a different site before going to this site that had Google Analytics code, it's already cached. The only thing that will change is the user account ID, that puppy there. So it's very fast, very light on the system. And we know that Google is pushing a lot on speed, and this is part of what their solution is. That's the account code that we've talked about. Must be entered exactly. Set account. There's ways of having more than one tracker. So for example, if I have, let's say that I have 2 different web properties, one being an informational site and one being a store, part of my same organization, I would have individual tracking codes on each one, and then I would also initialize a roll-up account for both of them. So I would have 2 tracking codes. The only thing that we do is we add 2 of those.
Is that different what you talked about before?
No, this is more technically the same thing. It's more technical details about the same thing.
But you have to sign up for 2 accounts?
No, in the same account you have several profiles.
Okay, I got it.
And each profile gives you...
that number.
Yes.
Got it.
What can prevent async from being collected? One of the first things I end up doing with 90% of my clients is educating them to the fact that web analytics is not precise. It is not a science. We're not looking at matching exactly the amount of visitors with what we know happened. We're going to be looking at trends. There are so many factors that can affect the results that it's really not that important. And when you're looking at trends, the trends are valid regardless. Okay? Trust me, not some of my colleagues end up spending mountains of time lots of hours of trying to figure out exact attribution as to what sale was gotten from what lead. And in my opinion, it's a little bit of a waste of time. Here it talks about deploying the system, as we've talked about that before, in the head section. And once you have created an account and whatnot, here's how you access it right there. Also, if you've made a mistake, that little exclamation mark will show. Okay? And troubleshooting that, there's some great tools out there that allow you to do that. WASP, I think I mentioned that on one of my sites, but there's WASP, WASP, it's free software. It's a spider, it crawls your site, comes back, says it's installed on these pages, it's not firing right on this one. You can use Firebug to look at each page as well and see what's happening. So there's a couple of ways you can troubleshoot it. 99% of the time, it's just not installed correctly on the home page, and that's why it's failing. Every page, please, every page. There's no reason for not having it on a page, none whatsoever. The data is private to you. Nobody else in the world is going to look at it. Therefore, there's no reason for not having it on the page. This is telling us that at least 98% of the pages needs to have it. If you have less than 98% of the pages with the code on it, you're going to need to scrutinize the data because there'll be holes and things missing. And if you have less than 90%, it's just not going to work. The data you have is completely incorrect. So just make it a simple 100% and the problem solved. I'm a big WordPress guy. Awesome system. I believe there's no reason to create a website and anything else but WordPress, because it eliminates the need for coding. Oops, I'm sorry. No. You can create anything, any functionality you want within the system very easily. It eliminates a lot of issues, and installing Google Analytics is a 5-minute job at the most. That's if you have a slow connection. So it's really cool, regardless of how many pages you have. Oh, here's WASP. Like I mentioned, that's that little happy WASP right there. And there's a couple of other things that you can use. It's tools that will analyze your site to make sure that your code is installed correctly. Okay, so that's asynchronous code.